So Drew, before we get started with this, I just wanted to extend a congratulations to you. You must be really, really happy.
Congratulating me for?
Well, sure earlier this week, well, I guess to back up, when you took your little field trip a few years ago to our nation's capital, and I know you were saying like you were just at the wrong place at the wrong time, but in any case, I heard the pardon went through this week, and I just wanted to congratulate you on that.
Very, very thoughtful, Jerris. I think that's super nice way to start the show. That's really putting us off. Now, I do want to clarify though. I mean, whenever I was up there, like it's partially because I was in the drumline whenever I was in band and I can't hear very well. But this guy came up to me and he was like, "Do you want to start a coup?" And I was like, I thought he said like, "Do you want to go to the zoo?" And so like cut to like 3 hours later, whenever I'm wearing my best bison horns, and I've got like, I'm draped in, I don't know, all sorts of animal fur because I think I'm going to get to go to the zoo for the afternoon. And all of a sudden, I don't know, I'm sitting on Nancy Pelosi's desk or something.
The sound of shattering glass didn't tip you off in it at all?
Yeah, there was a couple times I was worried. I was like, this does not look like the normal place that I thought I was going to be. But I mean, here we are.
Yeah.
I'm
in any case, it's all water under the bridge now. Congratulations.
All water under the bridge. That's just a misunderstanding is what it was. And it's expunged from my permanent record now. So we're all good. The ankle bracelet's off. Nice. It's really nice. It's great to be out here.
So, were you seriously in the drumline?
I was.
How have we never talked about this before? What'd you play?
I played marching snare.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in Ponca City?
In Ponca City. I was like I know what you're going to say. You're going to be like, all the cool kids were probably in football or baseball or stuff like that. No. It was marching snare is what it was.
I was going to say, when I was in high school, I used to beat up kids that were on the drum line. So we had...
I should have known. No, I played 4 years marching snare, played baseball too. Baseball players didn't exactly, they were a little more relentless, I guess, than the drum line, but it was a lot of fun. And I can't hear anything now. So in my marriage and anything else, I have a complete out. I can hear nothing.
Yeah, no.
It's just a dull buzz at this point.
So I played. So in Enid, high school was 10th, 11th, and 12th, and so my high school drumline career was 10th and 11th grade, and I quit band my senior year for reasons. But I played bass one year, and then I played tenors my next year. And so I'm deaf.
You get on
back is forever screwed up.
You get on the tenors, I'll get on the snare. I don't know. We haven't even got to Jason yet, but Jason
Maloy is with us. Jason Maloy, which drum did you play?
Not even a single instrument. I think I did after my freshman year of college. I took the recorder, whatever that class was. Experiencing music, I think.
You took a class to play a recorder.
Hey, I was an athlete. What do you want from me? These are the classes we took.
What do you want?
What do you want?
Yeah, what do you want?
What do you want?
You guys want to fight about it?
Yeah.
I think with no experience needed, I think on the first day somebody could show up and they could play an entire year's worth of bass drum and nobody would know the difference. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, he's fantastic."
So my son played bass drum this year.
No. Congrats.
But he doesn't listen to this, so he won't be insulted.
That's good.
But he's hoping next year. He's hoping he'll be able to close out his next 2 years on snare.
Nice.
And he works really hard, practices a lot. Yeah, that sounded wrong. I'm like, he tries hard.
He's giving it his all. Is what he's doing.
He's giving it his all. No, he does. He practices all the time. And we're hopeful he'll do snare So when I lived in Alabama, our marching band, I wasn't in high school in Alabama, obviously, but the town that we lived in, our marching band had 450 kids in it. It was like the coolest thing to do in this little town. And the drum line on the field had 50 kids playing. They were playing drums I'd never seen before. It was kind of like when the Grinch, the Christmas Grinch deal, and all the people in Whoville are like playing these made up instruments. That's what the Homewood drumline looks like.
It's funny you say that of how big it is in some communities. Like that really is like that. I mean, that's the sport in Ponca in like the 90s when I was there. That was Ponca City only had one school, so one high school, but it was big. It was before Conoco had taken off to Bartlesville and Houston, and so they had, I would say, possibly double the graduating class size in the 90s than as opposed to probably what they do now. And every bit of 300 people, 400 people, like Ponca City had a huge band too. And
really?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had some wonderful memories there for sure. It was a good time.
And what year did you come out of high school?
Graduated 2000.
We may have had a year when we competed against each other because Enid used to go to
Ponca.
Ponca City had a competition, right?
They did, and we would go, and we were in the same football class, weren't we? Like, wouldn't we? Be Wildcats versus Plainsmen every once in a while.
Yeah,
you guys beat the tar out of us, I'm sure.
Well, this is cool. Like, we brought on a guest, but we didn't even need him.
We don't need him. Jason, can you log off?
Yeah,
I'm just here to be the pretty face.
And after 6.5 minutes of talking about marching band, clearly all of the cool kids are still on.
What did you dork out on in high school? You got some Warhammer 40,000 or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
What did you do? No, I'm so glad for those days. It was a good camaraderie. Still talk to a lot of those people, and it takes all types. And I will say, so in tying it in, let's bring it all full circle to oil and gas. So last year with Novus, we went to a big convention that was going on for energy software in Vegas, and the final night of their big conference was at like a big club, and like it was with the typical like Vegas just spectacular fashion, with all sorts of stuff. And at one point, all the lights went out, and Bog rolls in, and these lights come on, and it is a drum line that the drums are lit up, and the the harnesses that they're wearing, and they've got glasses on that are light up. And I will say, Jerris, they were not good. Like, these guys were failed actors first and drumline guys second, for Vegas. But this was like the job they were doing. And so they came out and they were doing stuff. But what they would do is they would play along with the music, but they would also give the sticks to somebody in the audience so that they could have their 30 seconds of fame.
Okay.
And so Drew Hopkins sitting there, in the back of my mind, I see this come out and I see them go over to just some random, Joe over in the corner, and he just barely taps on the thing. And I'm like, I am getting ready to impress a good 1,000 people. This is what it was all for. I'm 20 years now into an oil and gas career. I did this so long ago. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
And I make my way to kind of the front. The guy's over next to me, one of the drumline guys, and I kind of reach out. I want the sticks. He hands me the sticks. I immediately am going to go into a really, really strong roll.
Sure.
Let me tell you, after 25 years, this would be 25 years from my graduation, chops ain't there anymore.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
It wasn't my most embarrassing moment. That was the 4 years in actual band, but it was a close second. So, but it was super fun, and that's my swan song probably of ever playing a drum set again. So
well, to all those fellow band nerds out there, we see you, we hear you, we salute you. And to the 99% of the other listeners, let's talk about Jason.
Let's definitely talk about Jason.
All right, Jason, where are you from? Fill us in.
Kingfisher, Oklahoma, fellow Okie. Yes.
Yellow Jackets? Is that
Yellow Jacket?
Okay.
No kidding. How did you know that?
Yeah, we're not that far. Kingfisher.
Well, Enid, Kingfisher, you've got two options for the city. You have Oklahoma City or you've got Enid. I mean, Kingfisher's like right in the middle. And so we dabbled in some Kingfisher territory.
No kidding. Yeah, absolutely. We got a couple major highways that go through there and at least one stoplight.
Yeah, you got 33 and 81.
That's right. Yep. Big boys.
Boom. Not bad. And then where'd you go to college?
University of Oklahoma.
Very nice.
I went there.
Stayed home. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the major?
Energy management.
Energy management. Okay.
Yeah.
I told the story. Did you start off energy management? Yeah,
I came in and I think first year maybe was undecided.
Okay.
And then to energy management whenever I thought I was going in the bathroom and I actually went into Ted Jacobs' office. And got the sermon. Yes.
Was it? Yeah.
What?
So
was
speaking
it really...
of the sermon and speaking of bathrooms and Ted Jacobs, do you remember like what he always used to say? Like, and this was early 2000s, right? When email was a thing, but we were all still kind of getting used to it. And it was, you must check your email every day. Check your email like you would go to the bathroom. He used to say that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that. And his class, and we were joking yesterday. I was talking to Kelly Estes, the director at Tech, and we were talking how basically you'd come in, you sit for the sermon, and then eventually you would end up in his class, but that was one of the first classes. And so it was a, pass or fail based on what he saw.
Right.
So there were some people that's where their career ended.
Oh yeah, no, that was like a very big deal with him. If by the end of when you thought you were going to graduate, if he didn't know your name, you were not graduating with that degree.
That's right.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
He managed the program very, very tight.
Yes, he did.
Were you guys there were you guys both there at the same time?
Yes.
We were, yeah.
Did you know each other?
You graduated 2005? Is that right?
Yeah.
Were you December or summer?
May.
Okay. Yeah. Same time then.
Yeah. Never had any classes with each other?
No, we did.
That you know of?
Yeah. A handful.
Okay. I would walk in with my drumsticks and then Jason would...
You were in my experiencing music class.
Yeah. No, though. Speaking of experiencing music, so when you were talking about your recorder class that you had,
that's right.
So there was a class. So one of the electives we had to have at OU, one of the electives you could have at OU for your business degree was, I don't even remember what it was called. Something about like history of Eastern music or something like that. And
that sounds good.
Like you would listen, and I'm sure people like that. Obviously people like that music somewhere in the world. I don't know who those people are, but like Japanese music, the very, very traditional Japanese music to me sounds like a harp and a drum just kind of falling down the stairs at the same time. And that's what it sounds like to me. But anyways, part of this class, you had to go to a musical experience and then write a paper about it. And everybody put it off until the very last performance of the year. And the last performance of the year was Ash Dargan. That was the guy's name. And he was one of the world's foremost didgeridoo players. And so in this concert hall, he's getting up there with his really big stick, is like, the place was standing room only. Like people were sitting in the aisles.
This was the best night of that guy's freaking life.
He had never seen a crowd that big. But it was every student had put off the performance that they were supposed to go to for the very last week of class. And Ash Dargan, the didgeridoo player, just sold the place out.
There's somewhere Ash Dargan is sitting in front of a fireplace holding like a Merlot, and he's still talking about that. Yeah. He's
telling his kids and
I walked out on stage, and they was standing room only, and the applause just wouldn't end. It was a magical evening for everybody.
That's right.
All right, Jason. Okay, so first job out of college.
In Canada Oil and Gas in Denver.
They bought
Tom Brown. Yeah.
Yep.
Interned up there. They bought Tom Brown in Mid-Con in Dallas, kept the office open, and gave me the option of Dallas or Denver. Chose Dallas just because it was closer to home.
Right.
Started out here and worked my way through their various basins. Fort Worth, ended up in Haynesville, Tuscaloosa Marine Shale. When I was in Denver, worked Wind River, DJ, some of those things. So whenever I got to Dallas, I still was able to contribute to some of their other basins and kind of know what they were doing.
Was it overwhelming at first, just getting out of college and jumping right into it, or
it really was? But I still tell young students all the time. I said, listen, the big companies are fantastic because you're this tiny cog in this massive wheel, and they want you to learn everything, and they'll pay for you to go learn Aries and how to run economics and how to go to the field and do all these things because they want you to have exposure and be able to talk about it and do these things, and they invest in you. Bigger companies will invest in you that way. Awesome. And it just so happened that I started my career and slowly went smaller wheel, and got to where I am today. But I tell students all the time, those big companies, they will spend the money to advance your career, and you need to take them up on that.
What a great way to start your career then, by getting in with a company that was really going to do that right after college, whenever you're still just ingesting everything. And that's fantastic.
It is a Canadian-based company. U.S. operations were out of Denver, and so they had just bought the Dallas office. So they were still kind of integrating and figuring it out and what they wanted to be when they grow up with this new asset. And so they gave a lot of responsibility. The year after me, they actually started implementing like a 2-year training program. So I was just on the outside of that. I had a lot of friends that graduated and came up through that. And so I didn't get pushed into that, but I got to experience some of the cool parts of that.
That's awesome. Did you have any, can you think of any like mentors that you had there? Any land people that really like made a huge impact on helping you get kind of that right training and just kind of get where basically you are today?
Yeah. So let's see, probably 2008, 9, I met Nancy McCaskill, current AAPL president. And about that same time, I started getting super involved in the DAPL, the local association, and that's where I met Brooks Yates. And so right off the bat, Brooks became a mentor and a really, really close friend. I still talk to both Nancy and Brooks nearly every day. I was texting with Brooks about an hour ago, and Nancy called me about something. And Nancy, I traveled with her yesterday to Texas Tech. So they are both probably, from a professional standpoint, had some of the biggest impacts on my career. And I mean, they're both uber successful and super involved in AAPL and philanthropy. And they know how to mentor. They enjoy that aspect of it, which I think is a key component. And I was looking around many years, kind of that next generation, Jerris and I, we were kind of that next gen, and everybody was excited. And I think I woke up last year and I'm like, I'm not part of that next gen. They're way younger. Their back doesn't hurt when they got out of bed.
That's right.
All those things, but it's funny. I'm getting older with my mentors, so they're now managing the AAPL and managing these big oil gas companies and having these impacts on energy policy and all these really cool things. And to watch them grow, but also have them as a mentor from a professional standpoint. Yeah, both of them were very impactful.
I think, Jerris, didn't we talk about it on a past show of how we said it's kind of almost like a rude awakening of, for so long you look at your career and you're like, oh man, whenever I get older, I'm gonna do the same thing that I saw. Just like you were saying of my mentors doing, or oh man, this is I'll do that whenever I get older. And then all of a sudden, you're right, you do kind of sit back and you're like, I'm at probably over the halfway point. And I'm also getting so many of those younger crowds reaching out and asking all the questions that I used to ask. And
the stab in the heart is when they're like, hey, would you consider being a mentor? And I'm like, what are you talking about?
No, man. You want to get a beer after this?
Yeah. Or the students yesterday in Lubbock, they were like, hey, what advice would you give for, new students getting into the business? I'm like, I don't know. I'm still figuring this out,
Yeah. Yeah, one of my rude awakenings, I think, happened at NAPE last year, and I was socializing, and there were some younger students, or they were just graduated or something along that line, and we were chit-chatting, and they were super excited. They're like, "This is our first NAPE," and I think I actually uttered the words, Oh, well, this is nothing. Back in my day.
Right?
Yes.
And I just stopped thinking they were going to be shocked that I used the words back in my day, but they were fully expecting me to say that. And they're like, yeah, tell us what it used to be like.
Yeah, tell us, Grandpa. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel it. I'm not the same. I remember, AAPL was promoting the next generation Landman, NGL.
Yep.
I don't even know what happened to that. It's just gone. I guess we grew up.
We all grew up. Yeah.
Julie Woodard. I know y'all had her on. She was kind of in our same class. She graduated about that same time. We were talking about that at San Diego. Like, we just kind of look around at all the committees, and it's kind of that same level group. We all kind of grew up together, and
well, so if we're talking about all the different things that we went through, and like with the Julies and with looking up to the Nancys and everybody else of, these are our mentors, and we're learning from them, and we're kind of helping build these different policies and going to the different events. Now, if we are all sitting here and we're all honest with ourselves, boys, like midway through, we're not the spring chickens anymore. We get to see, like at NAPE, we get to see all of these wonderful new faces of people saying that this is their first NAPE conference. These next years, these pivotal next years, what do you think are some of the changes that we're going to experience, or that land profession is going to experience, that maybe we didn't ever have to deal with?
Ooh, that's deep.
I think from like an AAPL leadership standpoint, not just industry as a whole, but I think AAPL leadership, I think our generation, this kind of next group, you are seeing how much more our children are around the industry, and how much more we talk about our children with these things. And you have people like Steve Virant writing, Landman books for elementary kids, and you have Kyle Wagner writing, you have Kyle Wagner.
Yes,
writing.
I was, both Jerris and I leaned at the exact same time. I was going to grab my copy. Mine's right over there on my desk.
This is my handbook. I refer to it numerous times a day.
Yeah, so Mark was my first boss out in Canada. So his Steve's father. So as soon as he, put it out there, I went and bought it. There's a really good big book by Kyle Wagner, Goodnight Drilling Rig. My boys love it. There's a whole part in there about, the landman gets the lease sign. My boys love to yell that right before we go to bed. I mean, that's some of the things that maybe it's always been that way, but it seems like with our generation, we recently filled out that AAPL survey about going to AAPL meetings, and there was a whole line of questions about, do you bring your family? Do you bring your children? Do you do this? How do you integrate those things? And so I think that's much different than it was, 25, 35 years ago. I'm good friends with Travis Beavers and Jay Beavers, and I think Travis and James growing up, going to AAPL quarterly board meetings with their father, that was very unusual. But I think it's happening more and more often, and children are kind of used to being around AAPL leadership and around the industry more. And even my 9-year-old now will come home and kind of pivoting more to the energy industry. He'll have questions about electric vehicles, about electricity generation, about wind, about solar, and oil and gas, and all these things. And his friends ask him oil and gas questions. I'm not sure we should have a 9-year-old be the spokesman for what I do, but it's very interesting how he describes what I do. So I think that part of it is very interesting, because I think as a whole, our industry is getting better at educating people. And I think that is so important right now, especially when you have Landman TV out on, and you're kind of, which part of that is real and where's the nugget of truth in all of that?
So speaking of the TV, you've had quite the opportunity recently to be somewhat of the face of our profession. We are not the first podcast to have you on recently. You have been making the rounds.
You Judas.
So how did we get so lucky? That's kind of what I want to know.
You guys have an inside track. We go way back. Back in my day, we went to school together. No, it's been a whirlwind. Jerris kind of knows this, but for the audience, AAPL found out about this exciting new TV show about our profession the end of 23. We ended up working with them. Probably the first big lift with AAPL and Paramount was Landman, and actually squeezing the words together to actually come up with the correct word. And so we got that done. That was probably a technical piece that Leanne Callahan kind of got through. But then we were lucky enough to have them film at the actual APL headquarters and kind of integrate some more technical stuff. But it's been a whirlwind. So we found out about it in end of 23, 24. I guess around Nancy started putting together an ad hoc committee, or at least thinking about how we want to respond to, or be in a position to respond to the Landman TV show. So she put a committee together, and the committee really was mainly supposed to look at the TV show and provide a mouthpiece, and so that we could kind of get the word out there, what's real and what's not. What ultimately ended up happening was we kind of did a deep dive into AAPL and how they handle their PR, how they handle their media, and ensure that it just, generally speaking, AAPL has a good policy and a good process in place for not just in response to the TV show, but just moving forward. Do we have a direct communications? Do we have somebody that handles social media? Do we, what does that look like, and what does that process look like? And so we ended up putting this massive report together, presented it to the board of directors, presented it to the executive committee. Both of them unanimously voted, and they immediately implemented it. And one of the recommendations was to have a companion podcast to be the mouthpiece of AAPL, or at least be able to respond and have fun with it. And so I don't know how many people they've had on there. I think they've had 11 or 12 episodes, and I think they have 3 or 4 land professionals, landmen on each episode, and they cover a lot of ground, and it's kind of fun, but it provides AAPL a way to say, that's real, that's not so real, and it has a lot of mature content.
But let me ask you this: how much of their podcast is dedicated to talking about marching snare drums?
0. What? This is an exclusive right here. I've been on that podcast twice, and we didn't talk about any drum lines.
This is big.
So,
I'm writing it down.
So with all of your media appearances that you've had, what are some things that they never asked you about that you kind of wish they had asked you about because you've lived such a cool life?
I don't know about any of that.
Well, then I'll bring some stuff up that I happen to know about. Did you know, Drew, that Jason is an Ironman?
An Ironman? Okay, so how many miles is that running?
That is
that's all I know.
2.4 mile swim,
okay,
112 mile bike ride,
good,
26.2 mile run, all in 17 miles. 17 hours.
And how many times have you done it?
I've done 6 fulls. Yeah.
When was the last time you did one?
About 7 months before my oldest was born. Kids get in the way of my training.
Yeah.
See, now, Jason, I've got to admit, I have 0 children, and so I have no reason why I couldn't train for something like that. It's more based on I have 0 desire to do anything of what you just said. Like so I will go home tonight. I will change into gym clothes. I'll go over to the gym, and I will huff and puff. I almost said run. I will huff and puff in a very fast pace for about a mile and a half on a treadmill. And then I'm like, that's
enough.
all I can do. And
the journey of a million miles begins with a single step.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
I absolutely love it. I did whenever I'm dying tonight.
I did escape from Alcatraz a couple times in San Francisco. And then I was pretty involved in DAPL in 07, 08 with Brooks, of course. And we had a woman landman that was diagnosed with leukemia, and she passed away very quickly. And so I was kind of looking at doing an Ironman. And so I ended up calling OU, and there were a bunch of DAPL friends. And so getting connected, and we ended up raising $56,000 for a scholarship in her name back at OU for the energy management program. And Jerris, that's now one of the big, plaques that they give away. It's the Sarah Williams Memorial Scholarship.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was my first one.
It's amazing.
So I've never shared this with Jason, but I remember when he did that, Landman magazine actually did a really lengthy article on Jason participating in this and doing this Ironman deal. And when I had seen the headline, I was like, oh my gosh, I know somebody famous, you know? And so I had read the article. And the thing that sticks out in my mind the most is that I haven't done 6. I've only done 5 of these, but I have never done one at all. But looking at reading about your experience on it, because you gave like a play-by-play of, you know, I had to get up at 4 a.m. and I had to do this and I had to do that. And one of the things that I'd never thought about before was like, how do you stay like fed and hydrated during this 17-hour day of this experience? And me being who I am and what my physical activity is, which is lifting food, the only thing I really remember from your article is that like you had this massive fanny pack of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And that to this day, that is still in my head. I was like, I don't know that I want to train for an Ironman, but I do like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So maybe I could do this.
Yeah. If the fails, the sandwich.
Right there, sponsorship right there.
Yeah. There it is.
That is a go-to. That's for those people in that community that do, you know, marathons and ultra marathons and triathlons and stuff. Uncrustables, that's a go-to. It absolutely is.
And I will tell you, I say this with a straight face, dead serious. The other day, I was hungry and I was like, I want to eat something, but I should probably eat something healthy. I know I'll eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I know that's super healthy because Jason eats them when he does his Ironman marathon. I thought that this week, I swear.
Somebody call Robert Kennedy Jr.
Yeah, you'll get a kick out of this. We go every year to the Disney Marathon weekend, and I've got a 9-year-old, 5-year-old, and so we're trying to get them excited about doing that stuff. So later on, they want to do it. Well, this year's been very busy for a lot of reasons. AAPL, my business, you know, the Landman TV show, all these other things. So I did not get to train quite as much. We were signed up to do the family 5K, so all 4 of us did the 5K. And then Friday was the 10K, and Saturday was a half marathon, and Sunday was the marathon. So I was signed up to do the 5K and the half marathon. So I showed up to Disney with 0 training, just my PB&J and my running shoes. My half marathon training was the 5K that occurred 2 days prior, and then the half marathon. And I had a ton of friends. We go kind of as a collective every year and go down there, and it was just kind of finish, have fun, and each PB&Js and go ride some rides. And so I think kind of that Ironman experience, you know, you just kind of go roll with it, right? You swim first, because if you stop swimming, you're going to drown. Then you bike, and if you go too slow, you might fall over. But running's always last because you can crawl if you need to. So that's kind of my approach, and you just kind of show up and put one foot in front of the other. It's a mental mind game. Just keep going and have fun in each PB&J.
Do you have a good playlist that you always go back to? Like, I mean, do you have something that you just continually listen to while you're doing this, or are you even able to?
When you train for those, and you're supposed to put so many miles and hours in training, you kind of cycle through. So right now I'm kind of going through a cycle where I don't really listen to anything. I got a Garmin on my wrist that kind of gives me a lot of stats. But this last race, and even last year's full marathon, I don't think I wore AirPods at all. I just kind of lived in the moment and listened to everybody. Last year I helped with an athlete with disabilities and was able to guide her, which was extremely, loved every minute of it. And so awesome. Able to do that, and you definitely can't listen to music when you're doing something like that. You're responsible for that person, and you know, it's mind over matter, the same thing. So you're trying to kind of guide them and make sure it's you're in front of them and behind them, and they have their kind of group and plowing the way and making sure everybody's safe. So right now I'm not listening to a ton of music, but usually when I do, it's just, I don't know, pop music, I guess.
Well, one of the reasons we started this thing, and Jerris can back me up on this, was we said as long as we continue to do these hour and whatever minutes of just absolute, just entertainment, high quality, you know, the next time you do this, Jerris was like, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple playlist per podcast, you're going to have hours to do this. I don't know. I mean, 17 hours, that's 17 episodes, baby. Exactly. You can knock this thing out.
Yeah.
You can relive
today they have, you can actually listen in the pool, or if it's an open water swim, they got earphones. You can actually listen in the water. So, yeah, 17 hours of nonstop Jerris and Drew.
Yeah. Hey. Is that an official endorsement? Like you will do that from now on?
I feel like it is.
If I have earphones in, I will ensure I have at least one podcast downloaded so I can listen to your voice.
Is it going to be your episode that you listen to
Absolutely
on a repeat? We start seeing the stats for this episode is just 3,000 listens.
All from Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
I'm going to owe you guys so many apologies over this episode.
Okay, so already going to be... Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, so you mentioned your business.
Yes.
So do you own Encana, or is this a different business that you have?
No, it was we put together a group of investors and got on their board and just took them right out. Yeah, renamed it some pharmaceutical company. I think Oventive is what they went to.
Okay.
No, that is completely false. None of that happened. No, I was at Encana for, I guess, about 11 or 12 years. And then I was very fortunate. I landed over at RSP Permian whenever they went public. We went public in January and started huge hiring frenzy to kind of manage that transition from a private equity-backed company into the public space. And that was a very heavy lift. Enjoyed every minute of that. Was able to build a really dynamic, highly productive land team. We ended up doing multi-billion dollars of acquisitions in a very short amount of time. And then we exited, sold RSP Permian to Concho Resources in 2018. Awesome. And that was, I think, around late July. In August, we had a geologist over at RSP Permian, and we broke off, looked at a couple of different prospects, and ended up putting something together out on the Eastern Shelf, and went out, spent our own money, and put some leases together. I had him in the basement of a courthouse pulling books, and I was upstairs running title, and our afternoons were spent with ranch owners, driving around the ranches and telling them why they should work with a landman like me.
Yeah, so you were giving your Cooper speech.
Yes, so that's exactly right. We ended up with a really nice position. Ended up talking to hundreds of companies about this crazy idea. Ended up cutting a deal with Brooks Yates Company. And then some former executives of RSP Permian came back and saw what we were doing and wanted to join us. And so that company was formed in 2019. That's Rising Star Energy Partners. And so I have Tall Cotton Energy, which buys minerals and non-op working interest. And our operating company is Rising Star Energy Partners, and we're operating on the Eastern Shelf.
It's awesome.
So when I started at Chesapeake in 2006, I think it was when I went there. So I had just started there and was working in this group that had just bought, or I guess Chesapeake had just bought a Rising Star entity.
Yep.
And they were buying it for a gas asset, but Rising Star also had this piece of crap oil thing in Martin County, Texas. And because I was the new guy and Chesapeake wanted nothing to do with oil, that was my area, was Martin County, Texas in 2006 on this Rising. Is this the same people?
Some of the same people. So Rising Star, there were various companies, Rising Star Petroleum, Rising Star Development, Rising Star Opco, all those kind of things. And they were all, a lot of them were backed by NGP, but they had kind of the same trio of personalities. And that was Zane Arrett, Tammy Pollard, and Mike Grimm. As we know, Mike Grimm is one of the founders and Hall of Fame members of NAPE Expo. So whenever we put this Erie County prospect together, Zane Arrett was our COO at RSP Permian. And so he's from that area. And so we called him to get some advice. And so he kind of knew what we were doing, but we didn't really divulge too much. We were still kind of putting the package together. And a couple of weeks before NAPE 2019, after we kind of got to terms with Brooks Yates Company, we came to terms with Rising Star, and that this entity, this version of Rising Star, was formed.
Wow. So you have your own company. You operate?
We do.
Okay.
Yep, we do.
Nice.
We drill and operate and all that good stuff.
if your pumping unit was on fire, would you know how to go put it out?
Yeah, so we had an electrical fire a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago. We had a lightning strike, and it was early in the morning, and our oil field is about 4 hours away, roughly. And so by the time that I was notified, which was probably the first or second phone call, I was in the car heading that way, trying to coordinate, a response and make sure the fire department and the hospital, kind of doing all those things in the car en route. And so now we have a very robust safety checklist before we drill a well, before we have a spud, meeting, all these things. We make sure everybody's on the same page. We have a muster point. We have all the important things that Landman TV show does not do. We do the opposite of all of that. We're trying to reduce, all of those issues, and we want to ensure that everybody that shows up on location goes home.
So does your safety protocol include the ability for the Landman to be within 2 minutes of driving time of every single well that is operated by your company?
We do have personnel that are within 2 minutes of all of our wells are very closely held together. Wow. So our position is about 15,000 acres, and it's all very contiguous and very blocky. So we actually we have some folks that are very, very close.
Cool.
That is an issue. We do want to ensure that people are close, and kind of coming full circle with philanthropy. You go out to these really small towns. I'm from a small town. It's not that much bigger. It's pretty large compared to Kingfisher, but relatively speaking, in Oklahoma, it's a small town. But I love to go and we give money to the local rodeo and the 4-H and all those things. And I love to see our company name on the scoreboard for the local football field and those kind of things. So we are very active in our community out there, and we're very active in the fire department and the hospitals and all of our first responders and those things, because you don't know when you're going to need them. And our industry is dangerous. We mitigate danger as much as we can, but you need to be prepared for those kind of things. And so we take safety very seriously. And as we go around the country and talk about the Landman TV show, that's probably one of the first things we talk about is safety and how important it is, and it's paramount.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. And I mean, I absolutely love, and I know it's other industries, but I love how the oil and gas groups, exactly what you're saying of you start in some place like Kingfisher, you start buying up assets, you start being able to do things, you exit, you get to do this again, and then you get to kind of share that success with your community. And like you said, being able to see your company name up there, that's an awesome badge of honor. That's great.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
So I'll tell another story that, I mean, I hope it embarrasses Jason. That's not really what I'm aiming for. Well, it is what I'm aiming for. So last year at the, I think it was last year, the AAPL annual meeting, the Chick-fil-A progeny was speaking. I don't remember her name. Jason. I think Kathy. Jason has autographed pictures of her. Yeah. So
I do. My boys really remember her.
So Jason was honored, and he received the golden Chick-fil-A card, which is like endless Chick-fil-A forever or something like that. And after the ceremony, Jason came down and he was talking. I was like, hey, that's kind of cool. And he whispers in my ear and he goes, I'm going to bankrupt the company with this thing. He goes, we use it so much. Like, tell us about your point status that you have with Chick-fil-A. Like, they have your picture on a wall in their headquarters or something.
Yeah. So here's what they don't say. So this is a really similar card. This is a little bit more special because it comes from the founder's daughter, but it's really similar to if you go to college football or you watch it. In between the first and second quarter, they do the kicking for chicken promotion, right? So if the person goes out there and they kick it through the field goal, they get, Chick-fil-A for a year. It's a very similar card. What they don't tell you is that nobody who works for Chick-fil-A has ever seen one of these cards. So whenever they receive it, they look at it like you're crazy and you're trying to scam them. So the first 10 minutes of any Chick-fil-A visit is having a conversation with them and explaining that, yes, I did receive this. It is real. And they know it's a problem because there's a little note in there that she included her personal email address and phone number. So if there's an issue, they can call her. I'm sure it's somebody in her office, but it's still pretty cool. but they make it right, and they get you the food, and it's pretty awesome.
But you were telling me like you and your family are huge fans, and you have achieved stratosphere status within their rewards program. Like, tell us these point levels and where the Maloy family sits.
Okay,
Jason. Okay, I am hardly following this. How did you get this again?
I don't know.
Like, I'm mad. First off, I'm not happy for you.
If you are only listening, you should really watch the video, because Drew's face right now. It's not deer in headlights. It's just like
I'm confused. First off, I'm very angry. Secondly, and I'm angry because I spend so much money on Chick-fil-A. Like,
okay, well, so much money on Chick-fil-A. Have this status as well, though. If you will go into the app and you'll cruise through all of the rewards that you can get at the at one end of it, at the high end of it, you can get a personalized Chick-fil-A headquarters tour with a senior vice president. That's on my app. I can see that. Like, I can select that right now and go to Atlanta. I think that's Atlanta, and visit the headquarters and get a personal tour. Pretty awesome. Chick-fil-A, it's where it's at.
Hey, and you had that before you got the golden card, right?
I think anybody with children under 10 already qualified for that, because they eat there so much. We eat there multiple times.
We got to end this show. We got to get done with this, because I'm beyond furious at this point. Like, I can barely hold it together. I'm thinking about all the 12-count nugget meals that I've had, and I've never had to explain a golden card. Does it look cool? Like, I mean, do you?
Oh, it looks out. It's like it's platinum colored. Yeah, it's got her signature on it.
Oh,
yeah,
gosh, I'm legitimate. So jealous. It's so freaking jealous.
It's not as cool as Bill Gates' golden McDonald's card. It's not that cool.
No. Okay,
but I use this a lot.
Does it have a barcode on it? Like, could somebody counterfeit it, since nobody at the stores know what it is anyway?
Somebody counterfeit it?
There's like a code on the back they type in, and I'm supposed to not share that with anybody.
Yeah.
Code?
It'd be a shame if you emailed a copy of that to me after this was over.
How about I take a picture of the front and back and send it to you?
I mean, I'm not telling you should, but I'm not. I
can tell you, the first visit back to AAPL headquarters after I got the card, I stopped and got everybody Chick-fil-A breakfast.
It doesn't matter how much you order.
It doesn't.
Awesome.
It's legit. Yeah.
Is it really?
Wow, that's unbelievable. Like, this is like beyond the biggest celebrity that we have ever got on the show, and it's not like I don't give a about oil and gas right now. This is the new pivot that we're taking the Real Deal Landman show.
Yes.
Oh man, that's going to be the new name of the show. It's going to be Pay Me in Nuggets. I'm going to see if I can get a banner printed out by the time we get our name.
There we go. Yeah.
Holy cow, that's awesome.
You can actually, what I have tried to get them to do is to see what it would cost to get the Chick-fil-A cow at like an event. I would like to have something like that. Yeah.
I'm sure they would just tell them you're Jason Maloy.
Right. They're like, who's that?
There's got to be some
card.
there.
Show them your
Show
app.
them the card. Yes, just pull up the card.
Show them the card in the app, and that cow is going to dance wherever you want it.
Jason, how old are you right now?
I am 44.
44? Okay, we're right at the same age here. Like, okay, so at what point are you going to be in your 50s or 60s? And there's a certain age there that you're going through a Chick-fil-A at some point, and it's going to be some little pimple-faced 17-year-old that's going to be looking at your card with not understanding what it is, and you're going to utter the phrase of, "Do you even know who I am?" Like, that's going to happen. Like, you know who you're talking to.
No, you do not know Chick-fil-A. They would never say something like that. Everything is my pleasure. Let me help you with that. And so I just walk in now, and you go straight to the manager, because you're going to have a conversation.
You're going to have to talk to the manager for sure.
Got to talk to I need to speak with the manager.
This is the
Before we wrap up, Jason, do you have any parting words for us besides eat more chicken?
I love the podcast. I think you guys are doing an absolutely fantastic job.
Well, thank you. So speaking of podcasts, speaking of NAPE, the Real Deal Landman show will have a booth at NAPE. Drew, I know
what's that booth number, Jerris? You got that?
No. 16.
Oh, off the top of your head?
16, 17?
17.
Okay.
17.
I know 16, 17 because I'll also be at another booth that is 23, 24. So I know that, like, I'm thinking increments here. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So I know we haven't really talked a lot about our plans, and we may have to get some stuff for it. I just wanted to let you know that I will spring for the black curtain. Yeah. So,
really?
Yeah.
Really?
I'll make sure we have a black curtain at our booth. If you could take care of everything else, that would be great.
Oh, I'm gonna do what I can. And Jason, I hope are you planning on attending, Nate?
I finalized my booth layout about 10 minutes before I jumped on. So we have 4 couches and a TV. So you guys just come if you're tired of walking around. If you want to have a meeting and sit on a comfy couch, come to the Rising Star booth. We'll be there.
That is so cool.
We won't even bother you. You guys just take a couch and a chair and have your meeting, and we'll just be over here.
Okay, so let me tell you, right now, our little 10 by 10 booth, we have a calfskin rug that's going on it. We've got we've got some stuff for the backdrop. We do not have any chairs. We do not have any tables. So yeah, you're going to be missing a couch at some point.
Yeah. Your couch fit inside of a 10 by 10 space.
Friday morning, we're going to show up.
Hypothetically.
Go on.
Yeah. Just hypothetically, will a couch fit in a 10 by 10 space?
2 of them will, because we got a 10 by 20 and 4 of them fit perfectly. So yes, they will.
Fantastic. Well, I hope you come by our booth. I hope everybody that's listening, if you are attending, Nate, fantastic. Number 1, we thank you for listening to the show. Number 2, we hope to be able to meet you in person. This is just, it's good people connecting with good people. And we're just continuing to meet wonderful people that continue to help those future generations. And I mean, that's what I think the AAPL, that's what I think, this podcast and just this wonderful profession that we're all a part of. That's the name of the game, and that's what makes it all worthwhile. So thank you so much for listening. And Jerris, I'll kick it to you to kind of close us out.
Bye.
See ya.
Okay.